Everyone, I'm Jeff Cunningham. Welcome to Convos with Cunningham on KFES Streaming. Joined today with Robbie Guard. And Robbie, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Jeff, for having me.
For those who may not know, Robbie is a city councilman, former city councilman, who would like to be the current mayor of Cape Girardeau. You are currently running. I've seen your signs.
They're out there. Well, when they're not blowing away.
Yeah. Well,
unseasonably windy this time of year for yard signs.
So, how's the campaign going? First off, would you say?
I think well. I've had a lot of conversations. I think what I've tried to do most is sit down face to face with people and talk about ways to improve our city, whether that be through more crime prevention, more police officers, or technology, but sitting down and talking to residents and finding out what matters to them and letting them know more about me and my style.
What have you learned that's different so far running for city council as opposed to running for mayor?
It feels it's a lot more scrutiny under that position. The city charter is derived, over the last 50 years, and there's tweaks to it, but the mayor's position just comes under a lot more scrutiny, it seems.
I mean, do you think that's fair? I mean, it's a different position.
Yeah, I believe it's fair. I believe it's totally fair. I guess in some ways I expected people to pay attention more, and in other ways I have found where people have paid attention less. So if you talk to some people in the community, they have no idea that we have an election on Tuesday. And then you have people that are highly engaged. And I think some of that is demographic of who the people are, what their age demographic is. But it's been all over the spectrum, really, in a lot of ways. So,
what was it, or was there a specific issue that made you decide, you know what, I think I'm going to try to transition from city council to leading the city? Was there something specific that hit your radar, or more than one thing?
No, I think that from my perspective, it was just about leading and the leadership. I've said this a million times. I think Stacy Kinder is a great person, phenomenal Christian person. She and I have different leadership styles. Given my background in banking and nonprofit, I just felt like my leadership would be better suited to push the city in the direction best suited for it.
Right.
I don't know if there was any one specific issue or item. I just knew that over the last 18 months, 2 years, I said, this is something that I want to do. It's something that I feel massive conviction for.
And just in fairness, Mayor Kinder will be with us tomorrow. Yeah. Same kind of deal. Yeah. We wanted to give you both a chance to, talk to the voters. Here we are, about a week out. So let me ask you this. So first day, you're elected. First day on the job, what's the first thing you do?
Actually, first thing, I want to explore a committee, a board for the city that would address nuisance properties. And I've actually had a lot of conversations in the last week about properties that need attention, and maybe some of the landowners, it's very difficult for our city staff to drive around and find properties that have issues. We don't have a beautification committee anymore. So I'm kind of a beautification nuisance abatement board made up of some landlords and people who care about the community. I think that's a real low-hanging fruit.
What are, for people who may not know, what do you see as the problem? We just have a lot of derelict homes. I know we on the news have talked about, especially when it was cold, there was some fires and things that were started, people trying to stay warm in houses like that.
I think that you've got derelict homes. I think you've got some landlords that aren't paying attention to their property the way they should. And I think it's going to be very difficult just to rely on staff only handle that. And you know, I've listened to the other side that there's, you know, working poor in our community who don't have the capabilities to take care of their property. So that was something that was low hanging fruit to me. The other thing that used to be done years ago, and that was a council retreat. And they used to do a council retreat where you would go, you would meet basically a 1 to 2 day in town type thing where you're going through the budget, you're hearing from each of the departments, and discussing, you know, what the next 12 months are going to look like. The budget will, in April to May, will get signed off on by the city council. So that's going to be important to have a council retreat to get everyone up to speed.
Did you feel like when you took part in that retreat that you and other council members were closer? Like it gave you a chance to get to know each other?
I think that was a huge part of it, and then it gave the new council members an opportunity to understand government finance. And you got to understand the direction of the department heads. It allowed the council to collaborate together and maybe give some suggestions to the city manager and have some open dialogue with the department heads. You don't get a lot of opportunity when you're in the thick of it to kind of pause and have those conversations as a group. And you know, I mean, I go back to what I asked about low hanging fruit. We might get in that. We might get into the retreat, and I might bring that idea up, and everybody goes, oh, "That's a horrible idea." Okay, we'll scrap it. You know, that's the beauty of the city council and working together. And so part of my campaign has been saying, let's do more of that. Let the city council and the city manager out in public work together for solutions and ideas and collaboration.
So I was part of the mayoral debate that you and Mayor Kinder took part in a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks ago. So let's talk about some of the issues that came up during that debate. One of them was the homelessness issue that we have in Cape. It seems to be, I don't know, I don't have any stats behind this, but it seems like it's worse. It seems like there are more. Am I wrong about that? Is that
I think from talking, I went to the end of the year warming shelter community meeting, and from talking with them, I would think that your assumption or our assumption that there are more is probably fair. I think that probably what once was, and I'm gonna butcher the data, but what's maybe that was 50 is now a higher number than that.
And why is that? Do you know? Do we know?
When I went to that, I mean, I don't know if it is, my opinion is that it's more about mental health and substance abuse and not just the standard run-of-the-mill homeless person who's just been down on their luck. I think if you were to talk about mental health across not just Cape Girardeau, but across the whole United States, I mean, mental health is one of the worst epidemics that we've got in society. And then if you look at substance abuse and
Robbie's mic up.
oh, sorry.
No, it's not your fault.
Oh.
I'm turning your mic up, dude.
Sorry.
Okay?
All right. No, but
Pump up the volume.
Pump up the volume.
Yeah, anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I think that if you look at mental health and substance abuse, those are two big issues, and so I think that's probably why that number is higher.
What do we do about it?
You know, and I kind of brought it up in the meeting or in the debate, and I think it's a matter of being able to connect. You know.
Is it still too low? This one?
You need to
How about I just?
These?
Where does it say JVC?
What am I doing with it? Put these up too?
Yeah.
Would it be better if I just talked like this? Well, this is my fun.
Is that okay? Robbie, we're going to have to start completely over. If you can remember everything you just said and go and do it again. Are we good? Testing 1, 2, mic check.
Hello, I'm good. My name's Robbie Gard.
You're not good. I don't know what
I
I'm
don't know
doing.
what's going on.
Is it that one? What about that? Does that
What
help?
about this? Does this help? Are you hearing me now?
No.
No?
Okay.
That's bad. I think thumbs down means bad.
Bad. That's bad.
Okay.
I don't know. I've got all my usual things up here. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear that. How's that? Can you hear Rob now?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Okay. Well,
So-
we can do it like that.
Like what?
We'll just switch back and forth.
Oh, okay.
Dude, it's rudimentary, okay? Listen. All right,
Who are we owned by now?
Just leave that there. Is that okay, Amber? And Olivia, we're good?
Are we good now? Can you?
Okay.
Is this better?
So we were talking about homelessness, and
Yep.
I asked you, what do we do to address the homeless problem in Cape?
So what I really wanted and what I would love to see more of is how we get our mental health professionals and our substance abuse professionals in with street level, in with the warming center to address those issues. I met with the president of street level. I think there are some good programs out there that I would love to see put into play in Cape Girardeau. I think that if we really address the substance abuse and the mental health, I would bet that our numbers would decrease as far as homelessness.
You know, might I borrow this first?
Yeah, go ahead.
We had Will Rogers in, who we both know, and who's a local police officer, good guy, and has been the driving force behind a policing technique where they have a group now that instead of, when you have a mental health situation, instead of just calling in, your normal police officer, they bring this group in who have training with that kind of thing with mental health, and I talked to him not too long ago. We had him in here actually, and he said that he thought that had been working well. What are your thoughts on that kind of policing?
I think that in today's society they have to do that. I mean, a lot of the calls that they are going on now are mental health related issues, and so if they can have an intervention group, like, so to speak, I mean, any of those things that are new that are going to work for today's society with mental health, substance abuse, I love it. I mean, that's something that we wouldn't have been doing, you wouldn't have seen 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So no, I applaud him, and I know he was huge on the mental health side and bringing in, essentially being able to bring in a doctor of psychology to be able to come in and address those issues. At the end of the day, we need our police officers to help with the serious crimes, and a lot of the mental health stuff can be handled by that group or by those certified therapists.
So another issue that we've been facing in Cape, and I know you're close to this one, our firefighters, the union, we still don't have a contract, and I know it's a tricky issue. You know, my dad was a firefighter, so I don't want to get it wrong, but it seems like it's just kind of a tough issue, and part of the problem isn't just the contract, but a lot of times, unless I could be mistaken, correct me, attrition. People find better offers other places, and they leave. But it's got to be challenging for the city too, because that we're talking about a lot of money. So, what's your take on that? What have you heard from those guys?
So, I'll say it for the 15,000th time. I have not promised them anything other than sitting down and listening to them, which I've done. I was cautiously and am cautiously optimistic that while it seems very far apart right now, whenever I have talked to some within the department, and higher levels, and even talking with the firemen themselves, they really believe that this all could be hammered out in an afternoon. That was words to me. Now, I believe that you mentioned attrition and people leaving. I mean, there is no doubt that when COVID hit and the strain that it put on public safety,
police and fire. We saw a lot of good firemen leave the city of Cape Girardeau. We saw a lot of great police officers leave the city of Cape Girardeau. And, I believe that put a strain on that department as well, which is now this is under a microscope now. And, I've said it before, I don't have the answers to it. I just would love, in my personal career, it's about negotiating and figuring out how you're going to get it to the end. And sometimes those negotiations take long, but I've said it, and it doesn't need to be fought out in the newspaper or TV and social media. I hate it for both sides.
What's been the holdup, would you say?
Well, I know that obviously money is always going to be number one thing, and being fiscally responsible in this community is number one. But I think there are a lot of other small issues that are sticking points for both sides. I think the way termination happens is going to be a sticking point. Some of those seem to be smaller items, but it's death by 1,000 paper cuts in some ways for both sides. So I wouldn't say it's any one thing. I've seen a lot of this small, what would appear to be smaller items. But I've sat down. I had the city of Cape Girardeau's list of 3 pages that they had issues with that collective bargaining agreement, and went through with the city manager those items, went through the same list of items, and wanted to get kind of a rebuttal from them, and so like I said, I don't have the answer, but we need to get to a solution. We need to get to the end of this for sure.
So we've talked a lot about in this campaign, and just in general recently, about infrastructure in Cape and fixing the water system, things like that. How do you feel like that's going? And what's the next big thing that needs to be addressed as far as infrastructure goes?
Oddly enough, I've not gotten an update on the water issue recently. I think that probably what should happen is have push some information out to the public about where we are actually at in that process. Like how many feet of water pipe are we going to replace a year? What about our system? What are our next steps? I think that where everybody, whether you're an individual, whether you're a business, whether you're a city, we have to do better at communicating. We need to map out what actually our yearly plan is with respect to the water system, and make sure that our public knows what we're doing. I think that's first and foremost is going to be communication. Infrastructure, I'm going to tell you, anytime I talk to anybody, it's about street repair. I got a call yesterday, a lady that lives on Lorraine Street here in town. It's not a thoroughfare, but it's like a gravel parking lot. And so what are we doing? How are we gonna get ahead of ourselves with street repair? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, people, that's number one on their list. They don't like the boil water orders, but they sure as heck do not like potholes. Yeah. So I think that's gonna be an ongoing issue. And frankly, I don't, I've said it at the debate. I don't believe TTF. Right now we are extremely dependent. Probably over 95% of our street repair is happening because of the Transportation Trust Fund annually. At some point in time, with rising costs, we're going to have to do more. And that's going to be a discussion that we're going to have at the city level, and bring in groups and talk about that. I don't another answer that I don't have the answer to, or a question that I don't have the answer to. But from talking with the residents, it's streets.
Gotcha. Let's talk about the end of the debate real quick. We're starting to run out of time a little bit. Some people said no. I was there. We've talked about it afterwards. You got kind of fired up at the end of the debate, and you got some blowback.
I did. did.
What was why don't you take us through that? What would you tell people who are listening or watching what happened, and what would you have done anything differently? What did you learn from some of that criticism? That was a good question.
Yeah, it sure was. You know, the normal person maybe doesn't know this, but I'm an extremely passionate person. I have been my whole life. I've been known to wear my heart on my sleeve, and the same guy that'll cry with his wife watching fried green tomatoes is the same guy that's gonna get his excitement and passion can come off a wrong way whenever they're defending themselves. And I didn't like being categorized as part of an old system or being told how I was going to do things. You know, I served under 3 mayors, and I know exactly how I want to do it because I've seen what has worked and what has failed with all 3 of them. And so, would I have changed anything? I would have made sure I thanked everybody at the end instead of just kind of mic dropping there at the end. But I'm a passionate person.
Did you feel like it was fair? The criticism you got, did you feel like it was fair?
I didn't, because I've never been mayor. And I've never had that opportunity to be mayor. I saw how Harry Rediker did it. I saw how Bob Fox did it. And I saw how Stacy did it. So to categorize me as going back to the old ways, I didn't think was fair. And it's not how it's not how I'm going to be a mayor.
So we're starting to run out of time.
I love to
Yeah, I know. This is
very intimate.
it's fairly bush league. I'm sorry. It's not how we normally do it. And if I were a smarter person, I could probably maybe fix this on the fly. But you've known me for a while, and you know I'm not. What as my final question? What do you want? What is the message that you want to get out to the people who will be voting in the mayoral election coming up? You have you have another 30 seconds here. What's the message you want to give to them?
You know, the message is for me is that I'm a normal roll up my sleeve, get the job done, talk to you, come to your house type guy. And I am tough. I am transparent. I am trustworthy. And I love this town. I love this place. And I'm proud of it. I just want to be able to make it better.
That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
Just make it better.
Just make it better.
Well, Robbie, thank you for coming in,
Jeff, thank you so
and I
much.
appreciate your patience. I know this mic thing, but whatever.
Eh.
Yeah. Best of luck.
Thanks, buddy.
As we said, Mayor Kinder's going to be in tomorrow, and we'll talk to her about some of the same stuff,
Cool.
and then you guys will square off.
Yeah.
It's on April 7th.
April 7th, Tuesday,
Yeah.
April 7th.
April 7th. All right, cool. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm Jeff Cunningham with Robbie here, and I am signing off.